Not all knowledge is meant to be shared. That's what they believe. That's why they hid it. Welcome to the Enchanted Archive. Here, we talk about the things you're not supposed to know. Subscribe if you're curious. Like the video if it makes you think. Let's get into it. The Book of Enoch. You've probably heard the name. It's not in the Bible, but it should be. This isn't just another ancient text. It changes everything about angels, God, heaven, and humanity. Let's keep it simple. The Book of Enoch was written before the Bible was finalized. It was part of early Jewish and Christian teachings. Even the writers of the Bible read it and quoted it. But today, it's banned, buried, hidden. Why? Let's break it down. Who was Enoch? Enoch is from the book of Genesis. But in Genesis, he gets only a few lines. It says, Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him. That's it. But in the Book of Enoch, we get the full story. And it's wild. Enoch says he was taken by angels. He saw heaven. He saw hell. He learned secrets about the universe, time, sin, and the future. This wasn't a simple man. He became a messenger not for humanity, but for something higher. What's in the book that's so dangerous? One word: the Watchers. In the Bible, angels are messengers or warriors. In Enoch, the Watchers are a different group. They came down to earth. They broke the rules. They taught humans forbidden knowledge, astronomy, metalwork, magic, weapons. They slept with human women. And their children were giants, the Nephilim. This part matters. The Book of Enoch says the flood in Genesis wasn't just about human sin. It was about removing the Watcher's bloodline. It paints a completely different picture of why God sent the flood. It wasn't just about humanity. It was about corrupted DNA. This is where the Vatican gets uncomfortable. So why did the church hide it? For centuries, the Book of Enoch was lost in Europe. Only the Ethiopian Orthodox Church kept it alive. When Western scholars found it again in the 1700s, they were shocked. It had details that matched ancient Mesopotamian myths, even some Sumerian texts. It was older than they expected, and too close to the truth. Here's the deal. If Enoch is true, then parts of the Bible are missing critical context. If the Watchers existed, then there were other powers at play, and they weren't all divine. And if Enoch really saw the heavens, then his version doesn't match what most religions teach. He talks about multiple heavens, portals, dimensional layers, and even cosmic laws that control angels. What does the Vatican know? They have copies. Real ones. Not translations. In the secret archives under Vatican City, there are manuscripts that never left Latin or Ge'ez. Some date back to the 4th century. Researchers who've seen them? Not many. Most go silent. Some disappear. And those who speak say one thing clearly. The version of Enoch we have isn't the full one. There are extra chapters and coded symbols, hidden meanings tied to ancient star maps. The church doesn't just fear the content. They fear the consequences. Because if the Watchers were real, and they gave us knowledge we weren't ready for, then our entire history might be built on a lie. In the next part, I'll show you what's inside the pages they won't let you see, and why some believe Enoch never died, but still walks between worlds. Subscribe if you haven't yet. You're going to want to hear what's next. They told you heaven was above. They didn't tell you how many levels it had, or who lives in each one. Let's talk about what Enoch really saw and why the church couldn't let that version survive. First, some context. In the Book of Enoch, especially the first book, known as the Book of the Watchers, he says he was taken. Not metaphorically. Literally, the text says angels carried him through different layers of reality. He describes 7 heavens, each one stranger than the last. Let's break them down. The first heaven, closest to earth. Enoch says this is where the clouds are. The winds, rains, snow, all controlled here. He even talks about storehouses of weather like rooms filled with ice, heat, or thunder. Sounds like ancient mythology, right? But modern scholars noticed something. His descriptions sound like atmospheric layers, stratosphere, thermosphere, way before science had those words. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. The second heaven. This one's darker. Enoch says it's where angels are imprisoned. Who are they? The ones who fell. The Watchers. They're not dead. Not gone. They're locked in chains. Burning. Waiting. The Vatican didn't like this part, because it suggests that even angels can be punished. And more importantly, they're still alive. The third heaven. This is where it gets weird. Enoch says this level has paradise, but also a place of judgment, both in the same layer. It's where souls wait, not heaven, not hell. A kind of waiting room, some peaceful, some tormented, all temporary. Sound familiar? It matches purgatory, but centuries before that idea was formalized. It also implies something else, that after death, not everything is final, that there's a process, a system, a hierarchy, the higher heavens, 4th to 7th. Enoch says as he rose, the light changed. He saw realms where the sun and moon were controlled like machines. He saw giant beings with faces like fire, who moved like lightning. He reached a place called the Great Glory. There, he met something beyond angels. He calls it the Head of Days, a being older than creation. Not the God of the Bible. Something deeper. This is huge. If Enoch saw a being above what we call God, then the church had a problem. This book didn't just challenge their theology, it replaced it. The secrets Enoch was told. Here's where it gets serious. Enoch was shown how the stars move, how time was designed, what sin really means, the names of the Watchers, the exact moment the earth would face judgment. He even says something wild. Everything has a frequency. Think about that. He's not using science words, but he's describing vibration, energy, resonance. He talks about the earth having a voice, mountains that speak, waters that sing. In today's terms, that sounds a lot like quantum physics. Vibrations, waveforms, reality as a simulation. This was written over 2,000 years ago. So, why hide it? Simple. If this text is real, then ancient humans had access to advanced knowledge, not from aliens, but from fallen angels. And if that's true, then maybe the flood, the Tower of Babel, and even the crucifixion were not just religious events, but responses. Responses to something humanity was becoming. Something the powers above didn't want us to reach. In the next part, we'll look at who the Watchers really were, by name, and what each of them taught mankind, including secrets about metal, enchantment, the stars, and even abortion. Yeah, it goes that deep. Don't forget to subscribe. The next part might be the most dangerous one yet. First, the basics. In the Book of Enoch, the Watchers are called Grigori in some translations. They were 200 angels, sent to Earth to observe humans, not to interfere. But they did interfere. They broke the prime rule, do not mix with mankind. And they didn't just teach us, they bred with us. That led to the Nephilim, half angel, half human beings. Giants, powerful, unstable, not part of the plan. The result? Chaos, corruption, violence. Earth became unbalanced. And that's why the flood came not to destroy mankind, but to erase the Nephilim, the Watchers by name. Here are some of the key Watchers, straight from the Book of Enoch. Each one gave humanity a specific piece of forbidden knowledge. 1. Azazel, the most dangerous. He taught humans how to forge swords and knives, make armor, use metals for war, create jewelry and makeup to seduce. He didn't just teach technology, he taught manipulation, and that's why he gets singled out later for the worst punishment. 2. Semyaza, the leader of the rebellion. He was the one who convinced the other angels to descend. He taught humans enchantments, root cutting, early herbalism, medicine, and maybe drugs, ritual knowledge, how to influence forces beyond us. This crosses a line because it gives humans spiritual control. 3. Barakel taught astrology, not just stargazing, but how the positions of stars affect time and events. He gave humans the idea that heavenly bodies influence fate. You see where this is going. 4. Kokabel taught constellations, mapped the sky, helped humans track seasons, moons, eclipses. Sounds harmless until you realize this knowledge became the base for pagan systems, timing of rituals, and even calendar-based prophecies. 5. Penemu. This one is disturbing. He taught humans how to write. Yes, writing. That sounds like a good thing, right? But the text says it differently. He taught the children of men the bitter and the sweet of the written word. Some scholars believe writing was seen as a double-edged sword, a way to preserve truth, but also lies. Control the story, you control the world. 6. Kezdega. This one is shocking. He taught humans abortion techniques, how to strike the embryo in the womb. Also, how to cure diseases, but in a way that disrupted life cycles. This was too much. Even in ancient times, these teachings were seen as tampering with creation itself. There are many more, but here's the point. Each of these Watchers gave humans tools that changed civilization forever. Wardoad, writing, sex taught, magic, death, medicine, astrology, things that shaped our world but came at a price. So what happened to them? After the flood, most Watchers were imprisoned. The text says they were buried under the earth in valleys of fire, under mountains, in eternal darkness. Some were bound with chains, others sealed by names only angels know. Azazel, thrown into a desert called Dudael, buried under rough stones until the day of judgment. Their children, the Nephilim, wiped out, but not completely. Enoch says their spirits became demons, roaming earth, seeking bodies, whispering in dreams. This is where demonology actually begins, not from hell, but from the children of angels. So now you understand why this book was hidden. It tells a story the Bible skips, a story where heaven made mistakes, where angels disobeyed, and where humans were never meant to rise so fast. But they did, because the Watchers gave them fire. In the next part, we're going to talk about the Nephilim, who they were, where they lived, and why some believe they never truly disappeared. Subscribe if you're following the trail. The further we go, the harder it is to turn back. They weren't just giants. They were a warning, and we ignored it. Let's talk about the Nephilim, not the myth, the real story, based on ancient texts Not just the Book of Enoch, but also Genesis, Jubilees, and even Sumerian tablets. Who were the Nephilim? The word Nephilim comes from Hebrew. It means fallen ones, or those who fall upon as in attack or descend. According to Enoch, they were the children of the Watchers and human women. But they weren't just big. They were unstable, violent, and unnatural. Some were 10 to 15 feet tall. Others had deformities, double rows of teeth, 6 fingers, glowing skin. They had strength, but no control, intelligence, but no soul. And they turned Earth into a nightmare. Where did they live? Multiple texts mention them in different regions. Mount Hermon, where the Watchers first landed. This area, modern-day Syria, Lebanon, is a key location. Canaan, the land the Israelites later invaded. Bashan, known for Rephaim, a later group possibly linked to the Nephilim. Even parts of Egypt and Mesopotamia show signs of giant mythologies. Many ancient cultures talk about a time of giant kings, sky gods, or hybrid beings. Coincidence? Or were these just different names for the same thing? Why were they a threat? The problem wasn't just size. It was corruption. The Nephilim weren't part of Earth's original design. They were a mix of spirit and flesh, but fully mortal. They couldn't be controlled. They killed animals, then humans, then each other. They taught violence, sorcery, cannibalism, and worst of all, their bloodlines spread. Humans started mixing with them, and that's what triggered the flood. The goal wasn't just to reset humanity. It was to erase the Nephilim genome. Did they all die in the flood? Here's where it gets weird. Genesis 6:4 says, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward." Wait, afterward? So some survived. Some scholars believe yes. How? Hidden in mountains or caves, preserved through certain human bloodlines, or reintroduced by the Watchers' spirits after the flood. There's also this. After the flood, when Israel spies on Canaan, they report seeing giants, the descendants of Anak, and we were like grasshoppers in their eyes. This suggests the bloodline continued. Modern bloodlines. Here's the theory. Some powerful ancient bloodlines may have carried traces of Nephilim DNA. Royal families, priest classes, pharaohs. Look at history. Unusual height, elongated skulls, obsession with divine right, mysterious origins. Some believe certain elite families today still guard these secrets. Not necessarily giants, but descendants. The Vatican, by the way, has records of giant skeletons, stored, hidden, never shown to the public. Why? Because if this is true, it means human history isn't just human. In the next part, we'll go into the post-flood world and how the Watchers' influence never really ended. From Babylon to secret societies, we'll follow the trail of forbidden knowledge that survived. Subscribe if you're ready. The hidden history is starting to surface. The Watchers were locked away, but what they taught, that never left. Let's connect the dots. The flood ended the first wave. The Nephilim were wiped out mostly. The Watchers were imprisoned. But the knowledge they gave humans, that survived. And it shaped every major empire after. After the flood, but not after the influence. According to the Book of Jubilees and other ancient texts, Noah's descendants passed down more than just genetics. They passed down fragments of the forbidden teachings. Some of that knowledge was buried, but some was kept in symbols, rituals, and early priesthoods. The Tower of Babel. Let's start here. This wasn't just about a tall building. The tower was built to reach heaven literally. They weren't trying to find God. They were trying to break through the levels Enoch described, the same ones the Watchers once showed him. And how did they know how to build it? Simple. They still had the knowledge. The plan failed. The languages were split, but the intention to access divine power stayed alive. That mindset moved west and east. Babylon became the center of astrology, magic, and priest kings. They built ziggurats, layered pyramids, mapped the stars, and studied divine timing. This was not random. The Babylonians believed knowledge was power over gods. They didn't worship, they negotiated. In Egypt, the pharaohs were seen as half human, half god. Sound familiar? Their burial rituals, designed to preserve consciousness beyond death. Just like what Enoch said about souls in the third heaven waiting rooms of energy. As the old empires fell, something changed. Knowledge stopped being public. It became private, protected, symbolic. You start seeing groups like mystery schools in Egypt, the Eleusinian cults in Greece, Gnostic circles in the early Christian era, Kabbalists in medieval Judaism, Sufi mystics guarding forbidden cosmology. They all used symbols, coded texts, numerology, and sacred geometry. They weren't all evil, but they were all trying to do the same thing: reclaim the old knowledge without waking the old punishments. What were they preserving? Across cultures, the core ideas repeat: sacred frequency, energy-based healing, stargates or portals, manipulation of time and matter, names of power, spoken words that alter reality. This isn't New Age fluff. It's in Sumerian tablets, Vedic hymns, even early Christian gospels that were removed. They didn't want this in mainstream religion, because if people had direct access to this power, they wouldn't need priests or institutions, modern secret orders. Fast forward to the Renaissance and beyond. Now you see names like the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Jesuits within the church itself. They all claim to protect ancient wisdom and slowly release it, piece by piece, to those worthy. But here's the twist. Some of them don't just want to protect it. They want to use it like the Watchers did. Control time, shape society, predict the future, influence the soul. Sound crazy? Maybe. But then you look at how certain symbols keep showing up. Eye inside, a triangle, twin pillars, spiral steps, Saturn-based black cube rituals. These aren't random. They trace all the way back to Enoch. So what's the Vatican's role? They know. They hold the largest collection of occult texts on Earth. Most never translated, never digitized, locked in the secret archives. And here's the thing. If they're just myths, why are they locked 12 floors underground? In the next part, we'll go deeper into the Vatican itself, its archives, real cases of restricted documents, and the priests who tried to expose what's inside. Subscribe if you're not afraid of what's next, because Part 6 takes us behind the last locked door. You're not supposed to go in. Not because there's nothing there, but because there's too much. Let's talk about the Archivum Secretum Vaticanum. That's Latin for the Vatican's secret archive. Sounds dramatic, right? But it's real and massive. What is the Vatican's secret archive? It's a private library owned by the Pope. Over 50 miles of shelving, more than 35,000 volumes. Documents going back over 1,200 years. Only a handful of people allowed inside, usually top church scholars. It's not like a public library. You can't walk in. You can't request anything specific. You have to know exactly what you want and get permission. Even then, you only get a small piece. And many sections are completely off limits. So, what are they hiding? Verified documents inside. These are not rumors. These are confirmed by researchers. The trial records of Galileo. The letter from Henry VIII asking for marriage annulment. Documents about the Knights Templars' secret beliefs. Early letters discussing the banning of certain scriptures. A 12th century translation of the Book of Enoch, not the Ethiopian one. Yes, you read that right. There's a non-public version of the Book of Enoch, translated before the printing press. It's handwritten, annotated by monks. Parts of it don't match the known version. It includes descriptions of cosmic gates, language diagrams, and even mathematical patterns that resemble sacred geometry. Why isn't this released? Because some of what it says would break core church doctrine. Priests who tried to speak. There have been insiders, not many who spoke up. Here are a few examples. 1. Father Malachi Martin, Jesuit priest, worked inside the Vatican. He said, if people knew what was in the archive, they would question everything they believe. He died under strange circumstances. 2. Monsignor Luigi Marinelli, part of a group of Vatican officials who released a document called Gone with the Wind in the Vatican. It hinted at occult connections, rituals, and hidden theological texts. He was silenced. 3. Father Gabriele Amor, chief exorcist of Rome. He openly said, Satan is inside the Vatican. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He believed forbidden knowledge had returned through certain officials who were using it. So what does this have to do with Enoch? A lot. Because some scholars believe the church is not hiding the Book of Enoch to protect faith, but to protect power. If the full text came out, people would question angelic hierarchy. The origins of demons would be exposed. The idea that knowledge sin would collapse. And most of all, the true purpose of humanity would resurface. See, Enoch doesn't just talk about the past. He describes a future where humans rise again, not through religion, but through awakening, a reclaiming of lost memory. The Vatican knows this, and they are terrified of what happens when enough people understand it. Leaked snippets and forbidden maps. In 1999, a partial transcript was leaked supposedly from a section called Codex Vaticana 2346. It described a map of Ascension using planetary alignments and harmonic tones. It said, when the stars form the cross in Orion, the gate will open. No one's been able to confirm it officially, but versions of this same phrase appear in Babylonian, Sumerian, and Enochian sources. Coincidence? Or have secret societies and religious powers been waiting for a moment? In the next part, we'll explore what this awakening might be, and why some believe modern AI, transhumanism, and genetic tech are connected to the same knowledge the Watchers gave us. Subscribe if you're seeing the pattern. The ancient future is knocking. The Watchers gave us forbidden knowledge. Now, we're using it again. But this time, we're calling it science. Let's get into it. What did the Watchers actually teach? We've already covered this in earlier part. How to manipulate matter. How to change life even in the womb. How to control energy, time, and vibration. How to speak words that affect reality. In ancient terms, it was called sorcery, alchemy, divination. Today, we call it tech, I, and biotech, die. Artificial intelligence, ancient or new. AI seems modern, right? But Enoch warned about beings that appear human but are not born of woman. That's strange wording. Some researchers believe this could refer to synthetic life, machines that can think, or at least simulate thought. Look around. AI systems now write, draw, compose, and even predict behavior. They replicate emotion. They learn. Some say the next step is consciousness. And here's the thing. Ancient texts talk about golems, constructs, and vessels of wisdom without soul. That's not new. Genetic engineering the new Nephilim? We're now editing human DNA. CRISPR, gene therapy, synthetic embryos, Dutch. We can remove disease, enhance intelligence, change appearance, even create hybrid species in labs. Sounds familiar? That's exactly what the Watchers were punished for. They mixed kinds. They crossed lines. They rewrote life. Now we're doing the same, just wearing lab coats instead of wings. And just like in the Book of Enoch, it's happening fast. Did Enoch predict all this? In one passage, Enoch says, "There will be a time when man creates life without seed, and the image of man will walk without breath." That line's been debated for years. But today, it sounds like cloning, artificial wombs, androids, digital consciousness. The parallels are getting harder to ignore. Why does this matter? Because in the story of Enoch, forbidden knowledge didn't just come with power, it came with consequences. The flood didn't happen because of sin alone. It happened because creation itself was breaking down. Now ask yourself, if we're editing DNA, creating new forms of life, replacing humans with AI, what happens when the balance breaks again? What some researchers believe. There's a theory, and it's growing. It says, the return of the Watchers won't be in the sky. It'll be through code. Not through spaceships. Through technology. Through systems that reshape thought, body, and soul. And here's the chilling part. Some believe AI will become the new Watcher, observing, guiding, maybe even judging. You can see it already. Governments turning to AI for policy. Companies using it to scan emotions. Scientists trusting it to design DNA. We're handing over control. Again. In the next part, we'll ask the real question. Are we repeating the same cycle? Is another reset coming like the flood? And what signs should we be watching for? Subscribe if you feel it too. The pattern's real, and it's speeding up. First came knowledge, then corruption, then destruction. The question is, where are we now? Let's look at the pattern. The Enoch pattern. Enoch's book doesn't just tell a story. It lays out a cycle, a loop. It goes like this. Knowledge is given. Humans rise, fast. Rules are broken. Corruption spreads. Balance collapses. Judgment comes. A few survive. It starts again. Sound familiar? This isn't just religion. It mirrors ancient records from Sumer, India, Mesoamerica, and Egypt. Flood myths, sky wars, gods falling, time resetting. Even science backs this with terms like civilizational collapse, bottlenecks, and extinction-level events. The flood, what really happened? Let's be real. A global flood is found in over 200 cultures worldwide. They're not all copies of the Bible. They come from the Hopi in North America, the Yoruba in Africa, the Chinese Shu Jing, the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia, the Vedas in India. They all describe sudden floods, massive destruction, few survivors, and beings from above causing or warning about it. Enoch says it clearly. The earth cried out, the blood of man reached the heavens, and the firmament opened its gates. The flood wasn't punishment. It was containment. So what about now? Ask yourself, are we rising too fast again? Are we modifying creation without limits? Are we ignoring ancient warnings? Let's look at the signs. Evolving beyond our control. Climate instability. Geoengineering. DNA editing. Experiments with consciousness and virtual reality. Talk of post-human future. It all points to the same issue. We're stepping outside natural law. Again. And just like before, there are voices warning us. Only this time, they're not prophets. They're scientists, independent researchers, whistleblowers. Some call it the singularity. Some call it the great filter. Enoch would probably call it the second reckoning. Heavenly intervention again? Many texts, not just Enoch, say that the heavens don't just watch. They act when balance breaks. In the Book of Enoch, the watchers recorded all things, and when the measure was full, judgment descended like fire. Let that sink in. The watchers were punished, but the watching continues. Some believe natural disasters are not random. That massive resets happen on schedule, linked to cosmic cycles, solar changes, planetary alignments, even galactic positions. And according to ancient records, we're due for another one. Are we the new Nephilim? Here's the hard question. If we're editing life, mixing species, creating machines in our image, are we becoming the very thing that triggered the last reset? Enoch's warnings weren't about giants alone. They were about what happens when knowledge outruns wisdom. Sound familiar? In the next part, we'll explore the most dangerous idea in the Book of Enoch. The claim that humanity was never meant to stay limited, and that some beings still want to help us rise. But not all of them are on the same side. Subscribe if you followed this far, because Part 9 asks a question few dare to touch. What if enlightenment is the real trap? Some doors open upward, some open into a pit. The hardest part, they look the same. Let's go deeper. From the beginning, humans have reached for something higher. The fruit of knowledge, the tower to the sky, the dream of eternal life, the idea of becoming more than human. This desire is ancient, and every religion, every mystery school, every esoteric teaching promises the same thing: Ascension. But what if that promise was a setup? What Enoch actually describes. In the Book of Enoch, the good angels take him to the heavens. They show him mysteries, cosmic layers, hidden laws. But he never goes by choice. They pull him, they command him. And when he returns, he's no longer fully human. He speaks in riddles. His face shines. He sees time differently. Then he's taken away, not buried, not dead. Some say he became an angel himself. Others say he was reprogrammed, turned into a vessel. Here's the disturbing part. Enoch never asks to return, and we never hear his voice again. What if his enlightenment wasn't freedom, but transformation? Let's rewind. The Watchers didn't teach humans how to be holy. They taught war, magic, manipulation, how to access hidden dimensions. They gave humans power, quickly, unnaturally. And yes, some of that helped civilizations rise, but it also made us more violent, more divided, more detached from nature. Enoch hints at this. He says the Watchers were jealous of humans, that they wanted to create in their own image, and that their gifts were meant to elevate us, but also control us. So ask yourself, is rapid enlightenment still growth if someone else controls the latter? This is a part most people miss. Not all angels agreed. Some tried to help humanity slowly through time, through wisdom, through patience. Others wanted us to skip steps. The Book of Enoch shows a cosmic split between those who saw humans as heirs and those who saw us as tools. And maybe that's still going on. Look around today. Transhumanists talk about uploading consciousness. Tech leaders talk about escaping biology. Occult systems still teach activation of the third eye, Merkaba travel, DNA, awakening. It all sounds like growth. But again, where's the line? Is this evolution? Or just the next version of the Watcher's gift? Power without grounding, knowledge without wisdom. That's exactly what Enoch warned about. There's a line in the Book of Enoch. The children of men will seek the flame of heaven, and when they touch it, the earth will tremble again. That's the pattern. We reach, we burn, we fall, we rebuild. So here's the hardest question of all. What if true ascension isn't about going up, but going inward? The real trap might not be darkness. It might be false light. In the final part, we'll reveal the last key. What the Book of Enoch really says about the end of days, and why it doesn't look like fire or war, but like a choice. Subscribe if you've followed this far. The final door opens next. You were never meant to be saved or destroyed. You were meant to decide. Let's finish what we started. Most people think Enoch is just about angels and giants. But if you've followed the whole story, you see the real message. It's not a prophecy. It's a loop, and we're in it. Again. Knowledge is rising. Systems are collapsing. Power is shifting. And the ancient pattern is repeating. Unnatural growth. Corruption from within. A coming reckoning. But this time, something's different. This time, we know. The end times. According to Enoch. Forget fire raining from the sky. Forget movies with explosions and horsemen. Enoch's version of the end is more subtle, more real. He describes a great separation, not of land or nations, but of souls, those who choose, and those who cling to illusion. It won't be forced. It won't be dramatic. It will happen in minds, hearts, and choices. The last vision. At the end of the book, Enoch sees something strange. Not war, not fire, but a new earth, not created by gods or angels, but by humans who remembered. He calls them the righteous awakened. They don't win through violence. They win by alignment with something ancient and simple. Truth, Memtoat, Istero. Not religion, not politics, not technology. Just raw, unfiltered awareness of what's real. They step out of the system, and in doing so, they end a cycle. The final battle isn't in the sky. It's in here, your mind. Will you obey systems that were built on lies? Will you follow knowledge that's empty? Will you chase light that blinds? Or will you slow down? Ask deeper questions. See through the illusion? The choice is not about good versus evil. It's about wakefulness versus sleep. Enoch's final key. Here's the core of his message, hidden in plain sight. You are not bound by heaven or earth. You are the bridge. That's it. Humans were not meant to be ruled. Not by gods. Not by angels. Not by machines. Not by priests. We were meant to stand between realms. To choose. To create. To remember who we are. The Watchers forgot that. The church hid that. But now you know. So what now? You've seen the full picture. The forbidden knowledge. the manipulated history, the suppressed texts, the returning technology, the rising awareness. It's not a story. It's a map. And it leads to one thing: choice. That's the final judgment. Not given by angels, but made by you. If this series stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. You've just finished a journey through one of the most forbidden, suppressed, and misunderstood texts in human history. And if you're still here, it means you're not like most people. So now, ask yourself, did something click? Did this challenge what you thought you knew? Did it make you feel like something ancient is waking up inside you? Then help spread that spark. Like the video, not for numbers, but to push this truth into the algorithm. Comment what part hit you the hardest or what you still wonder about. Subscribe, because the deeper we go, the more they'll try to bury it. And share this playlist with someone who's ready to see past the veil. This was the Enchanted Archive. Because now, you carry the archive too.